Hi, Manisha.
Hi, Ritu. So lovely to meet you.
Absolutely. I am excited to know about someone who could name their workshop or their entire work as impossible transformations.
Yes.
That really intrigued me. And I think it's such a strong and impressive way to, state your identity. How did you come about that?
I think it's fascinating, actually. In terms of the work, in fact, I met my husband 6 years ago, my husband right now.
Mm,
And when we got together, it was regarding our work, which was in the social space initially. But right now, it's in parallel, we were always doing the transformation work. And the
mm,
more we did this work, we were just astounded at the shifts and changes that were happening in people's life that would have felt really
mm,
impossible to do. To truly find your purpose that you're really embodying and living and believing in
mm,
a few days is just unheard of. I mean, I'd been on
mm.
so many courses to seek what is it that I'm here for, and on this planet. And
Mm,
I remember when I went through this process with him, I just knew this is it. This was my purpose, and there's no way
mm,
it's going to be any different. And
mm.
we've done that for thousands of people, since then. And
Yeah,
he's been doing this work much earlier. So it
yeah.
just felt like really impossible. Things that
Mm.
feel impossible was so possible. That's kind of
Yeah.
where the name eventually came from. Impossible
Okay,
transformation.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So giving a vision to the impossible is something we don't really do ourselves. We need a little bit of support. We need a little bit of a push. We need a little bit of possibly, just to reiterate the possibility,
Yes.
within us,
Yeah.
and so that's a lot different from where you started. You went to business school, and that was the start of the journey, I guess.
Kinda.
Yeah. And then
So
how, what took you to business school? And my point is that how did what you did in business school in that environment,
yeah,
how did that change for the Manisha
that I
today?
am today.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've had quite a multifaceted career in terms of, my journey over life. So I started off as an engineer. I did my engineering here in BITS Pilani, and then went across to England. I got married and I went there. So I've lived there I'm still live there for 30
Mm,
years now.
mm,
And in the last 6 years, I've been going back and forth.
mm.
And I realized engineering, I don't know, I think I did it because I just wanted to prove that any girl can do it too. This was almost, 30 years ago, but it wasn't my forte
Yeah.
necessarily. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there at uni, but it wasn't something that I was going to continue for long. So I
Yeah.
needed to change my career from the IT side and the engineering side. And that's what took me to, apply for London Business School. And I remember going in for an information session at LBS, and I was just blown away, and I was so excited that I said there's no other school I wanted to apply for. So I just applied for that, and thankfully I got in. And the next thing I know, um, it was an amazing journey because it was just so international. So it just kind of opened up my whole mind and brain, and how the world works, how economies work, how businesses work was just, amazing to open up to that and to the global world. I think that was the key because I really enjoyed meeting people from all different countries, and just the way each one thinks,
Yeah.
coming from those different cultures was
Yeah.
very, how should I say, not just inspiring, but invigorating in
Yeah.
every conversations we would have. So
Mhm.
that journey took me into my whole career in management consulting, and I joined IBM's management consulting arm there in London and worked in the telecom space for at least 4 years. This was the time when 3G licenses and data and all of it was, coming into play, and I really I love that time. I love that time. So I don't know if there's more to add to it, but I think learning the world of business, playing fully with different clients across different countries was just amazing. And I also knew at that time that was enough, because it was great to transform businesses in terms of, making them efficient, effective, and turning out more revenues. But the human potential is what got me at that time. And I just felt that the potential of human beings was not being unleashed as much as it could have done, as in those business. And even now, I think it's much better, but in those days, it wasn't that great. Yeah. So
It
that
is
got
great
me.
to, read your website and to go through so many varied steps along the way that you have encountered, and what it's done to you. But most of all, I was so intrigued by the lead like Gandhi. Uh,
Yes.
you know, uh, what shall I say? The initiative, or
Finish.
even the title itself.
Yes.
What were the events or experiences that got you first to choose that,
Yeah.
and then to emulate some of that in your work?
Work. Yeah. Um, yeah. Gandhi is somebody I had been totally inspired by from my childhood. And I think for many, he's one of these leaders who just did the impossible, truly, truly.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and did it in a way that, truly tapped into the core of every soul of another human being. He did it from that space. And I think for I don't see any other leader having done that, tapped into the, core humanness of the core beauty of every human that exists, tapping into that and speaking to that and making change happen at this scale. I don't think I've seen any other leader on this planet do that. And
Yeah.
um, so the work with Gandhi started actually. I came to India to work on a social initiative called Global Action on Poverty, and that's how I met Sunil, my current husband, who was initiating that at that time. And we launched it at the Gandhi Ashram in Ahmedabad, and because we felt that's the space where some grand initiative like this needs to be launched, because it speaks to what Gandhiji stood for, to create equality among all strata of society, and also to do it in a way that is self-sustaining. And that was the philosophy of GAP. And
Yeah.
and so we got connected to the whole Gandhi community that exists in Ahmedabad, and they were such amazing people in the way they were living their lives. There's a whole beautiful community there, including Tushar Gandhi, and that he lives there, but he's connected to the Gandhi Ashram, obviously, and and the directors and so on. And I think what just being there, I think we were touched by the spirit of Gandhi. That's all I can say, even more so whilst we
Yeah.
were there doing that event. So we had Mohammed Yunus and Aruna Roy and all these others who have been creating real change on the ground. And yeah, every time we do an event there, it's just magical. However chaotic it is, eventually it ends up being
For sure.
terribly organized. We're there and it's magical. So that's what, sown the seed of Gandhi. And for both Sunil and myself, we are really passionate about Gandhiji's way of life, and we're not saying we want to become a Gandhian necessarily, but what can we imbibe and espouse that we can bring into today's leadership, And it took us
Yeah.
so after we finished with the GAP activities over a few years, Sunil had the idea, said, let's create a fellowship where we bring in, senior people who can really be imbibed by the philosophy of Gandhiji in a way that they can apply it in their organizations and create change in society on a much larger scale than we are currently seeing and doing. And that's what kickstarted the initiative. It took us a whole year. We had people from different parts of the world, almost 20 people designing that fellowship, brought them together, met regularly, designed it, and we launched it in February 2019. And it was just a most enriching experience that I've had in my
I'm
whole life.
sure.
Totally, totally,
Yeah.
very deep.
So
So
with all that you do, Manisha, with all that you do, I mean, it's staggering. So we all know and admire you as the leader that you are, the coach that you are. Where do you prioritize? How do you prioritize your your personal time? I mean, how do you chill out?
Yeah, it's
What
funny
does
actually.
Manisha do?
I think
Or
yeah, I think personal life for me right now, personal and work life, there's no demarcation. It's all one, because it's all
yeah.
fun, it's all love, it's all play in a way that just feels true to who I am right now at this stage in my life. So there's no demarcation.
Hmm. The
Um,
video is,
yeah, it's back. Okay.
yeah.
So I love the work I do, and so I think somehow the priority has become the world of transformation right now. So having been through the business world, the social change world, and
Hmm.
right now the world of transformation is my kind of full-time thing, even though I've been involved in it for a long time. And then apart from that, I love spending time. We love traveling. So I think in the last 6 years, I've traveled so much that I've never traveled in my whole life. And I love exploring and doing that. I also love um, exploring my spiritual seeking. It's not a huge seeking, but wherever I feel drawn to, I do that. Whether it's attending, whether it's doing my own energy consciousness work, or whether I just like exploring that esoteric world even
Hmm.
more so than and the metaphysical world, as you would call it.
Yeah.
And I spend time doing that. And my daughter, who's 22, she's in England, so uh, I travel back and forth quite a lot, so get to spend time with her. And I love being in England as well, because I miss it right now when I'm here
Yeah.
sometimes, just the
Yeah.
life. And I think the energy of that land also calls to me. So, both of those, that,
Fortunately, that will soon be, you'll be able to do that. I
yes,
hope with this vaccine and everything else.
yes, yes,
So another thing that I'd like to end with really, because I was told that we have very little time.
sure.
So I don't want to miss an important part, something that fascinates me a lot and is one of my deep interests is documentaries. I watch a lot of documentaries. And I read that you have dabbled with making a documentary film, or you probably do more of them. So is there something we can watch?
Yeah, you can. I can send you a link. I haven't
I'd love to.
necessarily promoted it hugely. It actually started me on my social change journey,
Okay.
because I had really wanted to, how do I say, I think this was my coach at that time who said, Manisha, if you really want to dab into that, go and see what the scenario is truly, and that's what got me to come to India at that time, connect with a charity called Akanksha, and because their work was very empowering rather than
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
continuing with the charity cycle. I said, let me tap into the stories of these two kids who've been through this transformative journey with
Mm,
Akanksha,
mm,
and are in a very empowered, sustained space in their
mm,
life. And the
mm,
magic of where they are and how they're so much happier and empowered was the journey I went with.
mm.
And um, and it was good fun. I think just being in
Of
Mumbai, going
course.
to Dharavi and all the various slums, not a great space in terms of the lives of people, but I could also, tap into the joy and happiness that every human being has, irrespective of where they are. And I think that's the essence of what I managed to capture in that documentary.
Mm.
I just
I'd
use
love to see
people
it.
to do it with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since then, I haven't necessarily created more documentaries, but that just got me to experience it fully. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, and it was wonderful to hear it in person from you. And I will definitely wait for you to send me that link, and I'd love to watch it. Thank you,
Thank
Manisha.
you. And thank you so much, Ritu. It's just so wonderful to chat to you about all this. And I want to know a little bit more about you too. So I think the first time I just went to your website to look at who you are and what you've done, and having created the center that you have for, a lot of different healing and metaphysical as well as emotional well-being. Um, I think it's just incredible work. It feels like it's a lifetime's work that has come together that you're sharing with the world. Can you share a little bit about about your work, and especially, what brought you into this stage of your life, into this work in the first place, and how did it impact you?
Yeah, I do believe, and especially now, that nothing happens, without a reason. Yeah, there's purpose in everything. And the fact that I came into a very, very grave sickness from the age of 2, I constantly, heard messages that I would not be able to live a normal life because I just couldn't breathe. So I was on apparatus at a very young age, and I didn't grow up like other youngsters can. I couldn't do my schooling like other people do. I missed a lot of that. And whatever was happening at the time had a limit, to how much better I could get. So it forced me to explore alternative methods of healing, and I went into it whole hog. Whether it was fasting, whether it was detox, whether it was colon cleanse, whether it was pranayama, whether it was standing on my head or doing all types of yoga, etc. I just had to get well. I just had to
What was the
do.
illness? Would you mind
You know,
sharing that, Ritu?
it was a very serious asthmatic condition.
Okay.
It was obviously a very, it was allergic, which a lot of people couldn't understand where the allergy would come from.
Yeah.
But I would suddenly go into spasms and, things like that.
Okay.
So my mother was extremely careful. I was very protected and I couldn't do much. So as I was dealing with the physical getting better, I realized as I was exploring that it was not just physical, it was psychosomatic. There were emotions there that were being resisted, and I was not going to the place I really wanted to get at, which is where my psychological training started. So I did my psychological degree, and I was not at all happy with the way it was being taught, especially in India. And because my mother had to sort of settle me
Yeah.
before I went sicker yet. I was engaged when I was 16 years old,
Okay.
and I got married. And by the time I realized that this psychology degree was not for me, and I had to do more, I already had 2 kids.
Okay.
So then I decided that this wasn't going to work.
Mm.
So I started searching again, and that took me to California, which is the seed of everything that is unconventional.
So true.
And I lived there
Yeah.
for almost 10 years, going back and forth, taking my kids with me sometimes taking up assignments that I could do here. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Finding the teachers that really walked their talk was also, very fortunate, and I did find them. There was a group of scientists and researchers that were researching various other alternative methods of communication with the body. And that is how kinesiology happened.
Yes.
And I finally went into educational kinesiology, which was, the neuroscience of the brain. And then I went into actual emotional work with this group that they became my mentors, and I lived with them for a long time. But more than anything else, the essence of what I got, which is my reason for being today, is that what is we live in? It's an energy game, and it's in 3 dimensions. This energy game,
Yes.
and every time I think or speak or feel, I influence this energy. I'm responsible for what I'm creating.
Yes.
So that led me to to change the way I saw this world, to change the way I saw myself, my own possibility of what I could do. And I realized what a gift this illness has been. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I would not be here today.
Very.
So I wouldn't have been here. So, that went on. And of course, I started to live my life as the movie that it is, knowing very well that I am the director, producer, and actor, and all of that in my movie, you know.
Yeah,
So that's how that was.
that's how beautiful. And
Mm.
what got you to start the Ajna Center? Is that something that you wanted to teach what you've learned to everybody? Is that what was the dream and premise of that?
Well, absolutely, because I first wanted to help myself,
Yeah,
and I first wanted to. Okay, I guess.
sorry.
Hello, can we hear?
I can hear you. Yeah, I
Can
can.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so what the essence of my own healing first
Yes.
was that, you know, the body is the ultimate truth of us. The body never lies. It
True.
always lets us know what
Yes.
it's feeling, what it wants. It's just that we don't know how to listen to it.
True.
Yeah. So as I said, that every time I have a thought, it passes through my whole body. It's there in every cell of my body, you know, from the top of my head to the bottom of my toes. And it's like, you know, it there's a memory in these cells,
Mm,
you know, and it becomes like a program within me,
true.
just like a computer
Yeah.
program, you
Yeah.
know. So I have eons of information in
Yes.
this body, just like my computer does. But what is the point of this memory if I
Right.
cannot access it? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I began the study of kinesiology,
Yeah.
which is really a biofeedback. You
Hmm.
know, it tests by testing the body,
Yeah.
we determine how what the issue really is, not what the person says, but
Yes.
what the body says the issue
And
is
what's been
in
stored?
terms of what is the priority emotion that you are
Yes.
feeling. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we can find out through testing the body whether how much stress you have, how much motivation you have. And the most important is that, you know, this memory was caused so long ago
Mm.
and dominates my life
Mhm.
now in present time.
Mhm.
You know, I need to go back there.
Totally.
It's a very important part of my work. I
Totally.
don't work so much in present time
Yes.
as I do where the memory was caused. Yeah.
Yeah.
So by going back there,
Hmm.
we can edit, delete, and reprogram
Yes. And
this,
and
this
and in the process, heal a lot of the ailments and the stuff that you're stuck with. That will
absolutely.
release it, and that's kind
Because
of yeah.
yeah, and all I'm really doing is I am de-stressing this body
True.
so that I'm honoring the fact that it is a free flowing mechanism of energy
Yes.
that finds homeostasis
Yes.
when we remove the obstruction.
Totally. Got it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So
Very.
removing the obstruction is all I do. And that also, I know that I'm no authority for your life.
Yes.
You are. So
Yes.
you are merely using me to find out what you want,
Totally.
which a
Totally.
lot of times is impossible to state, even to myself. You
Yes.
know?
Yes. Yes.
So, and I see the function of stress. I see that, you know, it is necessary for us to learn.
Yeah.
And once we learn, we don't need that experience again. We can
Beautiful.
move on, you know.
Beautiful.
So that's what I do. And most important of all, I learned to say, isn't that interesting? So no matter what happens, I say, isn't that interesting? Which really
Yes.
runs my life at the moment.
Beautiful, beautiful. So amazing work. And I know it's such deep work as well, because I know so much of the trauma, the issues they just release. I mean, I've experienced this through a kinesiologist, that I've worked with as well. So I really understand the power of your work, which is awesome. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Because
that.
it is an experience. I can't talk about it as much as, you know, you have to just go
Yes,
through it. Just
yes.
like meditation or yoga, you
Yes,
can't
yes,
really
you
talk
can't
about
talk
it.
about it too much, but at
Yeah.
least you can create enough intrigue if people
Yeah,
haven't tried it to know that it exists.
absolutely.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
if they're called
Yeah.
to it. So if you had, this is a question I love asking people because I'm amazed at the kind of answers that come, is imagine you had all the resources in the world and you had all the lifetime span that you needed, everything handled. What would you dream of making happen in the world?
uh, this is very interesting because there are so many different stages of life when this dream takes a different form,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
changes completely.
Yes.
Sometimes a nightmare, it turns into this to be at that stage today.
Yes. Yes.
You asked me about resources. I have as much resource as I need today in my life to do whatever I want to do. The starting of Ajna, which is a non-profit
Yeah.
foundation, is also just addressing the stigma that is attached to any kind of emotional work in our society. You know,
Yes. Yes.
so I see people every day. I've been doing trainings till just this COVID started,
Yes.
and people pay whatever they can for
Yeah.
those that cannot pay at all.
Sure.
So that is resourceful in itself.
Yes.
I realize now and I see that it is my energy
Mm.
that I need to focus on, really. The rest just takes care of itself. I People come to support me as I wish today. And hence I have started a foundation, a scholarship foundation, which
Yeah.
started with just for rural Maharashtra,
Yeah.
primarily for girls,
Yeah.
supporting science students
Mm-hmm.
from the villages of Maharashtra. I
Got it.
started with 5 girls.
Wow.
Today, I have 135
Beautiful.
girls that are totally their academic,
Mm.
stuff is paid for. We also, because they're from the villages, they're all meritorious students,
Yeah.
but because they're from the villages, they don't have the holistic education that they need to
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every month we have various developmental workshops for them.
Mm. Mm.
Besides that, each child of mine has a mentor, you
Okay.
know, and I have 50 very well-meaning and well-intentioned, caring people that
Got it.
support me in this. Also, because this has been going on for 10 years now,
Mm.
the alumni
Mm-hmm.
have become mentors now. So
So
they
beautiful.
now support
Yeah.
the kids that are coming in.
So
Each child stays with us for 5 years,
beautiful.
from BSc 1
Yeah.
to MSc 2 and research. So a lot of our kids who
Yeah.
are really from very, very poor families,
Yeah.
some of them, their families are not educated at all. They have gone to McGill in Canada, they have gone to Sweden, they're living in Norway today, and there are
So
people
beautiful.
spread out all over
Yeah.
the world.
Got it.
So I'm involved in many such activities, which my husband and I really want to spend our time doing.
Was.
Another one is we just, with Swiss collaboration, we just started a skill development center
Mm.
in Pune.
Mm.
And this is the skills of tomorrow, which is really mechatronics, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, even deep sea welding,
Mm.
which is not done in India today.
Yes. Yes.
Another section we have in this is innovations in agriculture, hydroponics and all those kind of things.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is also a highly subsidized institute.
Yeah.
And I wish to spend my time doing that.
I can
It's
see
really
that.
like a dream come true.
Beautiful.
So when you ask me about what more I dream of, I dream of focusing and spreading this energy as much as I can. Be centered enough
Beautiful.
and aligned enough to do that. And
Fantastic.
that takes up all my time, really.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. What an amazing journey. And you are,
Thank
so
you.
multifaceted and so much energy to do a whole variety of things from healing to change in the social space to the new technology and innovations that are happening, I think you've spread your wings across, right? And I think you're going to continue making amazing impact. So thank you, Ritu, for the time.
There was I just want to leave it with this one Zen saying that I love a lot, and that is that the snow falls.
Yeah.
The snow falls and every snowflake in its place. And it really is like that. Wherever it is that snowflake needs to be, that place is right.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you
Thanks a lot.
so much.
Yeah? And hope we can meet someday. Come to Pune and visit me.